Welcome to Hustle Radio, a podcast about the New York hustle mentality centered in the e-commerce industry, the official podcast of the E-Com Cooperative. Introducing your hosts, Frank Acosta and David Dayon.
What's going on, Frank?
What's up? We're live, man. We're live.
We are live. We haven't done that in a while, Frank. What's going on?
But today's guest made us get into this good mood and this good hype.
100%. We have an amazing guest today. We have cameo appearances. We have a great topic. We have Joe Rodriguez commenting right away.
Shout out to Joe.
We just got like a good vibe. I haven't drank on a couple of episodes. I'm drinking today. Things are just back to normal, you know?
I hear you.
We're saying we are live, and there's just a whole bunch of amazing things happening. You wanna say who our guest today is of episode 13 of New York Hustle Radio?
For sure, man. For sure. We got Destaney in the building today, man. From BetterAMS. Let's get her in here. I don't put her in, man. We put her in. It's more about her than us today. What's going on?
What up?
No one told me we could drink.
Oh yeah. We're here to break rules. I got David singing Spanish music the last few days. We got him jamming to Spanish music.
We're gonna let this one play. All right, just give it a minute. It's worth it.
No doubt. This beat is fire, man.
Pretty good. Frank showed it to me yesterday. All right. What's going on, guys?
Yo, what's up, Destaney? How are you?
I'm in a much better mood now. No tequila needed. This was the perfect intro.
No doubt.
We don't just have one intro. We first we say who you are, then we play some music. We have our video before all that. We just have like 5 intros just to get hyped, just to start right.
We are hyped.
As Joe says, one of our viewers, good vibes only, man. That's the vibe we on right now.
That's the motto.
Yeah, that's how we live by, man. That's what we live by. So, Destaney, real quick, because I have so many questions for you. Let's just give yourself a small intro, what you do, what you're doing these days, and what company you represent.
Perfect. So my name is Destaney Wishon. I am co-founder and CEO of BetterAMS. We are an Amazon advertising agency focusing on everything from sponsored products, video ads, to DSP for some of the largest sellers on the platform.
Love it. So I saw yesterday you put a post and automatically a whole bunch of people were asking questions. David, I'm pretty sure you saw that on LinkedIn as well. So.
That's part of what I'm talking about. So Destaney just like set us up for it. The topic today is scaling your Amazon advertising. Destaney was kind enough to promote the episode and ask people, hey, what do you guys want to know? And we have a couple of questions from that post that we're going to ask. One of the questions will be a little more interesting than the others. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be good. And we're going to have a lot of fun. Let's just get started right away. I have a couple questions, and then we're going to get to Frank's questions, and then we're going to get to, Frank and I will be mixing in questions together. But after the podcast host questions, we will be going to the audience questions, and then some more fun stuff. So,
for sure. Just
to get started, Destaney, I know you have been doing ads for a while now. I want to get clarity on exactly how long you have been in the advertising space for.
I believe I've been managing Amazon ads for 5.5 years now.
Amazing.
Wow.
We always like to ask, what did you do before Amazon or before Amazon ads?
I was bartending at a country club and working my way through college. This was like my first job was managing Amazon ads. I know nothing else.
I am seeing a very strong correlation to that industry, the food industry and the service industry, and Amazon. Something about the hustle needed for that type of environment, and then obviously the world just kind of threw e-commerce, the opportunity of e-commerce in a bunch of people's laps, and the people who are the real hustlers are taking the Amazon and e-com world by storm. I think that it's safe to say that you are famous for your knowledge on Amazon, specifically advertising. And I definitely want to ask a couple questions that I just have. I always take any opportunity I can to learn. We actually were in a room about a week ago, right? On Thursday of last week, maybe. That was a lot of fun. We were in a room hosted by Nir Rave. Nir runs a group called Amazon Nonstop, and he has like this Zoom room that he invites people to, and we were lucky enough to be part of that. There's a reason why I'm mentioning that too. And basically, I wanted to just jump into a little bit of what, just this topic of advertising and scaling. And, we have a bunch of great questions. Some of the questions that I probably would have even asked got asked by the audience. But I want to just start off with, what are the basics needed to advertise? I sort of have my own answer that I think is the answer for this. But before are you just ready, open an Amazon account and start advertising? Is there something that you need to do beforehand? Give us a little insight into that.
I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions in the space, is that you can start ads immediately and get rolling. But the real answer is you need to have a great listing, and Amazon advertising will not make your product great. A lot of people take a poorly converting product, not getting a lot of traffic, and they're like, let me throw some gas on the fire and just run ads and drive more people to it. But if they're not converting in the first place, driving more people to the listing is not going to increase that conversion. So when we're auditing brands, that's one of the biggest things we're looking at, is making sure the listing's fully optimized before we pay to send more money to the listing. So not even advertising related, but have a dang good listing.
100%. I would say that it's an easy step one to make sure you do due diligence and give the customer everything they need to make that decision.
Yes.
Couldn't agree more. What would you say is, I guess, did you ever encounter a client who's like, hey, I would like to hire you for advertising, and then you say, oh no, we're not ready to advertise, you need to make your images much better, or your copywriting much better, your SEO much better? Is that something that you find yourself saying daily, weekly, monthly? Does that ever happen?
100%. You and I have had this conversation many times about just being a very honest service provider and trying to do what's in the best interest of brands. There's been times where we've actually told someone, hey, we want to pause our retainer so you could take that money and invest it into a launch service, a rank service, or hey, you need to use this money to focus on improving your EDC, add a store page, get video assets, things like that. Because all of those things are what's going to make your advertising work better. At the end of the day, it's not a marketing campaign like with Facebook or Instagram. It's truly just driving more traffic to your listing. So the better the listing can be, the better your advertising can be.
Okay.
Yeah. And Destaney, I always tell people that Amazon's real estate, right? And you should use every section that is available to you, right? So I see a lot of customers saying, no, I don't need video, or I shouldn't put 7 images up. And the reality is that whatever real estate they give you, not only does your brand deserve to put it up, but also your customers, right? It shows that you care. It shows that you're really in tune with your brand. Because if tomorrow Amazon says we allow you to put 3 videos on the listing, yes, and you're the only brand that's not doing it, you're lacking, right? So it's just transforming with the way Amazon is also transforming day to day.
100%. You're not Coke. Coke threw up their first few listings and they didn't need any other additional assets because everyone knew who they were. They knew what their products are.
For sure.
You have to convince your customers to buy your products, especially when you're competing with 300 other products in page 1.
And that's what makes them come back, right? So I feel like getting the first sale is hard, but then retaining them is where it's harder, right? Where your customers say, you know what? I've seen brands that in Christmas, they go and change 2 or 3 listings, their storefront, it says Merry Christmas, whatever. People are returning customers on Amazon, right? They buy one product from you and they love it. They're like, oh, what else do they have to offer?
Yes.
And when you do things like that, where you're up to date with what a holiday trend or whatever it is, they're like, wow, man, this brand is really they care for us to even see that, and I feel like people need to learn that because they push that to the side. No, customers really don't care. They do. Customers see everything at the end of the day, right? And they're just one listing away from seeing something a lot better than yours, just the reality of how Amazon works. And being present and having everything there is, so I love what you just said, right? Where you're telling your own customers hey, maybe some of this funds should be allocated to getting a video or doing your better listing optimization. And, it all comes down to serving the client and, more importantly, building a successful brand, man. And
Yeah.
I love that you even do that. So kudos to you and your team
100%.
out there. I always say 100%, right? My company's creative percent. I'm always telling David 100%, 100%.
100%.
You don't hear people saying it. So, good. I'm on that vibe, man. I'm on that vibe. I love it.
So I have another question that I get asked a lot, and I'm sure you get asked this question a lot as well. I'm a big believer in there's no one size fits all. I think everybody can agree to that. Most people can agree to that. I don't want to say everybody in the advertising space, even on that note. And I want to ask you: is there? And again, I pretty much think there's not a default answer to this question, but is there a starting budget that you would say applies to everyone? Is there something that you would like maybe? Is there a budget that you would say if you're not above this amount a day or this amount a week or this amount a month, don't even get started? I've heard so many different answers to this question. Again, like I said, I have my opinion, but I want to hear your opinion and I want to hear what your experience has told you.
No, I completely agree. So one of the reasons I was super excited to do this live is because you had mentioned the ability to answer questions directly. And I'm a big believer in Ask Me Anything because anyone can produce content for Amazon, but at the end of the day, it's not one size fits all. A good example is, maybe you have funding so you can have a stronger launch strategy than everyone else. That's going to mean you can be more aggressive in PPC. But if you take that advice and give it to someone who is 100%, personally financing their brand, they're going to be very cash flow intensive. They're going to need to focus more on profitability in the beginning because they're going to have another round of inventory to buy. So I really love, doing things like this where you can provide direct responses to people's specific scenarios. There's some generalized answers of like what average TACOS is, shooting for a break-even ACOS, things like that. But at the end of the day, you have to find individual consultants or people you can reach out to who can give you advice that is specific for your brand. If you try to follow like the blanket responses, the first time you run into something different, you're going to think you're doing something wrong, when in reality, you just may be in a different category or have different margins than whoever was posting that advice.
Got it. Even the average, tacos, that's a big question. And there's answers out there, there's goals out there, but yes. I find it more often than not, it's based on your profitability, your specific account. 100%, I agree. And I guess I want to know, before we get into some of the customer questions, I want to know a little bit more about, I guess, like your outlook on advertising as far as the management goes. And I think that this is a good point for listeners to potential clients of yours. How does the management aspect of BetterAMS work? Do you guys involve the client? Do you guys just update the client on progress? Do you guys ask them for their input? Do you not want their input? Do you find that too many chefs in the kitchen is too much? Like how do you guys go about dealing with your client, the interactions and the communication, and mainly like how involved are they and like that?
So before diving into kind of BetterAMS specifics, I wanted to just give some generalized advice because this comes up really often in the Amazon advertising space of, do I outsource? Do I use a software? Do I use an agency? One of the biggest tips I give is Amazon advertising is becoming much more complex. We have more ad types than we ever have before. And with those ad types, we have creative control. So we have the ability to upload lifestyle images. We have the ability to write 50 characters of copy. We can choose landing pages and things like that, which is amazing. And it really drives a lot of opportunity for brands to grow their actual brand presence rather than just being a private label product with a sponsored ad. Those intricacies are what makes it so much more complex. So I always say if you're using a software, you still need a human managing some form of Amazon advertising because a software can't necessarily write the copy and add a lifestyle image to the appropriate products yet. AI will probably get there in all honesty. But with it being as complex as it is, that's something that we've tried to hit on and really help in the industry is we want to work directly with our brands. So we're not a software solution. We want to do those additional little things to really make Amazon advertising successful. If a brand comes to me, hey, these are these 3 products, I want to push them. It's like, do you have a lifestyle image for them that we can put in your sponsored brand ad? Do you have copy? Are you focusing on ranking, or are you focusing on profitability? Are you focusing on competitor, acquisition, things like that? What is your goals? Because we're able to be much more strategic. Back in the old days, it was keyword targeting and bid management. Any software can run keyword and bid management. Nowadays, it's so much more complex that I do recommend having some form of human management, and that's where we try to be an extension of our brands teams.
Understood.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, very well said. I think that's. I was about to say 100% again. We're on that today. So David, I saw we had a whole bunch of questions. I don't know if you have cameos. I don't know what you're doing. I don't want to ask some of the questions of the people that are coming live. I don't know what you got going on.
Don't worry about it. You're more in the dark than usual, Frank. So I'm gonna get to one of the questions in a minute. I just want to before we because a lot of these questions are regarding scaling advertising, true to the topic, so that's fine. But before we jump into that, I just want to give Destaney another chance to say anything else about BetterAMS or give us any more tips on the topic before we get carried away with a whole bunch of things. Obviously we want to stay true to the topic as much as possible. If you have any tips, or as Near says, nuggets, I know you gave a couple in that room last week, and if you want to just go right into the questions, we can, but I wanted to give you that platform just to share anything that you might have prepared.
Yeah, I'll dive into a little bit real fast, and it's just generalized advice. As we all know, Amazon's getting pretty competitive. Supply chain costs are increasing, PPC costs are increasing. There's more competition in terms of other products than ever before, which is why doing these little things right really makes a difference. So when Amazon gives you new ad types, new creatives, things like that, really take advantage of them. Test small, see what you can do, because that's going to drive an opportunity for you to really tell your brand story. Back in the old days, when you searched for a toothbrush on Amazon, you had a couple hundred options, and it was really cool. Customers had that many choices. Well, Amazon's making the shift back to brand and really trying to find the products that are best for their customers. They're really hitting home that customer experience. So when Frank talks about doing the little things right, that's what Amazon's wanting to promote. They're wanting to push the people doing posts, Amazon Live, sponsored brands, sponsored display, because they want the product to truly resonate with their customer. So I'll cover a lot of that through some of the questions that I think were asked today. But my last Ask Me Anything I did went over an hour long. So if anyone has any questions that I end up missing, always feel free to go to my LinkedIn, ask the questions, comment on YouTube, and I will try and get everything answered. So I really just want to provide value in a space where there's a lot of confusion.
I did filter the questions, and I chose the ones that I thought make the most sense.
For sure.
While we're doing them, if you want to pull up that post and see any of the other ones that I may have overlooked, we have 5 questions today. I didn't want to, just like you said, we could do this all day, but I want to limit it. So without further ado, let's go to question 1. Question 1 was asked by Joey Sassoon, who is a client of Frank's. And he's a great guy. And basically, he's asking about what works best for new brands, down only, fixed, up and down, or some kind of mix.
This is a great question. One of the things I typically recommend is if you're using software of any kind, I prefer to use fixed bids. So I'm not playing with 2 different variables. If I'm using a software and then also using dynamic up and down, it can be hard to predict where your bid's going to be. And if you're a newer brand starting to first understand PPC, you may be like, why is this bid higher than what I set? Or why is it so low? Anything like that. So that's what I typically recommend fixed bids in the beginning. Now, if you're really focused on maybe scaling, then roll in up and down or a placement modifier for your top keywords that you're willing to bid higher on. If you're really beginning and you're not using any type of bid management, then I kind of recommend using down only. So that way you can at least have Amazon have some form of optimization control. But I stick with fixed for any new brand who's trying to understand PPC.
That was a thorough and amazing answer, Destaney. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, straightforward. I love it.
Okay, on to question number 2. From my main man,
Lenny Ash, man.
Lenny Ash is, let's just take a second to shout out AZ Seller Kit.
Yeah, I love him.
The best repricing software the Amazon world has. Lenny Ash asked a whole bunch of questions. I tried to cut out the part that I thought would make the cut. Whatever. But if you want to maybe respond to some of the other parts in the post afterwards, I definitely cut out the most from Lenny. But Lenny's asking, what is the most efficient way to structure campaigns in a way where we can still relate the data from reporting back to the listings we are advertising? That's a great question as well. I like that question.
This is a fantastic question. So reporting in Amazon advertising is probably one of their biggest weaknesses, and you either have to have amazing macros or software or very clean and organized structure. So one of the things that we do is we run all of our campaigns are typically with one ASIN, like when we're really starting to kind of focus on scalability and granularity. So we'll have one campaign, one ASIN, one ad group. The reason we want one ad group is because budgeting is on the campaign level. So if you have a $100 a day budget, you want it to go to your one ad group. You do not want it split up between 4 ad groups that you have zero control of. And then from a keyword level, we don't necessarily go as granular as single keyword because we're focused on scale. So we can have thousands of keywords and products we're bidding on, but we'll do smaller batches of keywords. And then we do the same thing with sponsored brands. We'll typically focus on one product grouping, and then we'll typically focus on pushing one ASIN, even though we'll be advertising 3. What this allows us to do is have a very clean campaign naming. We'll have the advertise ASIN. We'll have SP, SV, SD. We'll have exactly what we're targeting, ranking, any certain list of keywords, things like that, which means we can then pull our search term report and filter by campaign name by ASIN. And then that can show us a clean list of all the search terms that happen to convert for that ASIN because our campaign naming is so clean and efficient, which means we can also build macros for scraping keywords and things like that. So that's typically what we recommend.
Awesome.
Spot on.
Awesome. Keep it up.
There could be 100 other questions related to that. So if you have any other specifics, let me know.
For sure.
Lenny, if you're watching, just let me just connect you with Destaney, and you guys will just have a conversation about this.
Yes.
Ultimately, whatever you help Lenny with, I'm sure he'll implement into his software, and then that'll help the whole client.
Everyone will benefit.
Everyone will benefit from this. So a public service will be connecting you and Lenny. So I will take that upon myself. Question number 3 from Daniel Samples. What do you consider a big account scale-wise on Amazon? I'm curious what the most robust account you've managed was like in terms of campaigns, SKUs, or sales. In case you don't want to mention sales numbers or whatever, you can go with the SKUs or the campaigns. I'll give you an easy out.
Biggest accounts we're managing, I think, are doing close to $30 million a month in sales.
I love it. Good. I love that boldness, man.
Yeah.
She's not a limit. She's gonna say it, man.
We're no limiting mindsets here.
Yeah, 100%.
For us personally, our minimums are kind of increasing mainly due to like COVID things, but we usually look for around like 250,000. We have a few accounts that are doing a little bit less than that, but we took bets on them because their branding was great. They had great long-term potential, things like that. But I mean, SKU size, if you have good macros, good systems and processes, it honestly doesn't really matter. We have a lot of that built in. So some of our larger accounts do have upwards of 2,000 SKUs or much larger if they have parent-childs, things like that. So that's generalized answer, I guess.
Okay.
I think we're managing around $7 million a month in spend right now.
That's amazing.
Nice. That's amazing.
Okay. Moving on to question number 4 from Jaime.
The baby.
Jaime is a great guy. He wants to know about your thoughts on PPC impact, how PPC impacts organic positions of items for both new launches and items that are already organically ranked for targeted terms.
This is a great question. Probably one of the hottest topics in the space due to everyone having issues with supply chain, inventory, relaunching, re-ranking, things like that. I'm a really big believer in just fundamental philosophy. I'm not the person to go through if you're looking for hacks or ways to trick the algorithm. I don't really love it because it changes so quickly that it's not a great fundamental business strategy. So at the end of the day, what Amazon wants to do is they want to show relevant ads to relevant searches. And then they want to see whether or not a customer is converting. If a customer clicks on an ad and doesn't convert, it's probably not too relevant, right? So it's super easy to make assumptions based off the algorithm with that. So what we really look at when we're running like a ranking campaign is we'll put our 3 or 4 top keywords in exact match. We'll typically bid on top of search just because I personally would rather collect data quicker. So I want to get as much traffic as possible. And then I'm going to see how well we're converting for those keywords. If I'm converting less than 5%, it's a question of why aren't you converting for your top keywords? What's wrong with your listing? What can you do to improve? If you're converting much better, like 20 to 25%, then you can make an assumption that the more traffic you drive for that keyword, the better you're going to rank because you're converting so well that you're sending those signals to Amazon that, hey, customers are clicking on this ad and buying this product. They like it. Let's drive it up higher up on the page. So that's kind of my generalized philosophy. A lot of those can change if you're in a really expensive category. There's other things you may need to do. But at the end of the day, if you're converting well for your top keywords, drive more traffic for them. It's basically combining the philosophy of a search, find, buy, of using, URLs, all the old school methodologies. Like, just stick with the basics.
Awesome. The last question, we already have some of our cameos joining, so we'll add them in a minute. It's an easy question from a friend and a client of Frank's as well. Frank, we got all your clients today.
It's all good, man.
I am Hannah. What is the best way to keep up with all the new features available on Amazon PPC? I'm going to answer partially. You follow Destaney on social media. That's my answer, but this is not my questionnaire. So Destaney, go ahead and answer that.
I will say that probably one of the best ways is to follow the industry experts. I am in accounts still, all of my team's in accounts. We only do Amazon advertising, so it allows us to go incredibly deep on that one topic. We're always trying to post just helpful things. Like, I'm not the person to go to post like, oh, join our webinar where we're posting generalized strategies for a lead magnet. Like, we really just want to provide beneficial information. So that's the biggest thing. If you see anything new within your account, always feel free to reach out to me and I can give you kind of my advice, because we typically work a part of programs that help us get betas and things like that. So we have a lot of familiarity, but at the end of the day, it's logging in and clicking around. Like, that's how I learn, is every single day I'm like, oh, let's click this auto campaign that I've clicked on a million times. Is there anything new?
Chaim, you better take advantage of that offer, Chaim. You don't you don't pass up on that offer from Destaney. You reach out and you ask for your updates. All right?
Yes.
All right. We have our first cameo.
You have a deck of people here. Destaney, can you not see what's happening?
No, she cannot see Frank. Do you not know how to figure out where?
I can't.
All right, no problem.
All right, let's bring in our first cameo guest. I'm not even going to introduce him because I need to. I already mentioned him a few times. Nir Ravet, all the way from Israel.
Yo,
it's currently like 3 a.m. there, and he's up, and he's just for us, just to join, just to be to honor us with his presence.
No, it's not 3 a.m. It's just after midnight.
Oh, it's only 1 a.m.
No, that's okay. But you know what? It was so interesting. I was listening. I was learning. Thank you for that, Destaney.
Of course, thank you for being here.
Destaney's a rock star, man.
I'm so excited.
Nir, I mentioned earlier in this episode that me and Destaney were lucky enough to join Amazon Nonstop Club Room last week. It was awesome. It was just fun.
It was a good room.
A bunch of people won free things. I mean, this is something that we need to do this more often, and that's really. I figured, what better way to make sure that we do this more often than to invite you on air in front of everybody and say, Nir, can we do this more often?
How often do you want it?
Once a month, at least.
Once a month, you got it.
Okay.
It's yours.
There's no saying no when you're live. You have to say yes.
By the way, that's the strategy. You bring them live on a podcast. You ask them for whatever you want.
Make them commit publicly.
That's it. Peer pressure. But beautiful.
You know what? I was. It's kind of he's making things the opposite way. I'm always calling David and say, "Can we do it once a month? Once a month? Can we do it?" And he said, "No, Nir."
It's too much.
It's not too much.
I remember when me and David started this podcast. I started by mistake, and we're hearing all these people saying we're going to do 2 podcasts a week, we're going to do 3 podcasts a week, And I'm like 1, and I'm like, yo, that's it, man. 1 is drained. It's like draining because the whole setup. You enjoy it, right? But the whole process before it, who you're going to interview, who you're going to bring in, like it's creating the visuals, whatever it is, right? But at the end of the day, it pays off. But, there's people that do a podcast every day, right? And I'm not sure who it was that we interviewed, David. I don't know if it was Solozo. Correct me if I'm wrong. 5 podcasts a day, man. And I'm just like, yo, next level. But it pays off, man. It pays off.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I asked Norm how he's doing it, and he said easily.
Yeah. Nir, thanks for showing up, man. It was you surprised me, man. I wasn't expecting you today.
So Nir, stick around for a minute. Something happened in the comments, guys. Like I said, Destaney posted about ask your questions, and we all know Abe Chamali, right?
Yes.
Abe gave an opinion. We had an amazing guy named Daniel Samples give a counter argument on that opinion, and they went back and forth a couple times in the comments. So I figured instead of bringing their questions like on the screen like I did with the others, bring them both to continue the conversation, and then we'll let Destaney give the official. No offense to anybody. One of you might be wrong. One of you might be right. But we're gonna let Destaney make the official decision. Who knows if we'll all be right? We'll all be wrong. Who knows who will be right? Whatever it is. But I figured, why not? What's going on, Abe? How you doing, Daniel? Thank you for joining us.
Hey, what's going on? I feel like I should have just drove 2 blocks to do this in studio with you, David.
For sure.
Hey, thanks for having me here.
Yes, thank you for joining, Daniel. Guys, can you do me a favor and can you repeat or reenact, let's say, your little comment back and forth? I think it was started by, let me see. It was started by Daniel, I think, and he mentioned that fixed bids with a placement multiplier towards top of search is the best way to set up a new brand. This is going back to Joey Sassoon's question. Let's bring it up on screen for a second. What works best for new brands? And Daniel responded. Daniel, you just maybe give a little bit of background into why you said that, and then Abe will come with a rebuttal.
And I guess that there's a couple of ways that you can approach it, right? So my strategy that I have on, in my experience, has been on new products and not necessarily new brands. And that's an important distinction, is that the account that I work on is for a company. PetSafe has been around for a long, long time. So I do have it is a little apples to oranges there. But in my experience, I tend to go a little aggressive on bids, budgets, and I want to see where I'm at very early in the beginning, and then quickly scale back down to try and get in that lane that I want to with my bids. And I found a lot better performance on top of search. So usually what I do is kind of turn up the heat real high, and then quickly cut it back and try to get in that groove of an acceptable CPC and visibility mix, as opposed to trying to start low and kind of creep up. So I guess that was the question was what's best for new brands, and then my answer was kind of start hot on top of search and kind of dial it back as you can day to day.
Okay, Abe, you responded. What did you say back to that?
Yeah, so I basically gave the alternate view that modifiers might not be appropriate at first. And the reason I said that was twofold. First of all, if we're dealing with a new brand, their traction in the marketplace is untested. We don't know whether they're going to do well or not. We don't know how they match against their competitors. That's the definition of it being new. So at that point, we don't want to overspend, especially in a case with new brands that a lot of times are going to be cost conscious. Of course, there are the whales that come along with a big bankroll, but overwhelmingly, sellers that are bringing new brands to market do have some sort of cost consciousness. And when you combine the cost consciousness with the untested factor of a new SKU or brand, we want to be a little bit more cautious. Now, that connects to a separate aspect, which is the issue of the bid multiplier. Now, at the beginning, although you have an exact campaign, which is possible to start at the beginning, most sellers are starting out with less targeted campaign options. They're using an auto campaign as an exploratory. They're starting out with seed keywords, but putting them into broader phrase campaigns to see what hits. Now, the problem is when you apply a top of search modifier to a campaign, that hits on every single search term that you're pushing out. So if you've got a t-shirt as a keyword, that top of search modifier of 25 or 250% is going to multiply the bids for every single search term that fires. It's going to apply to long sleeve t-shirt and short sleeve t-shirt and blue t-shirt, men's and women's, and 5 out of those 6 are completely irrelevant to you. So until you know what is going to be matching your product, you don't want to apply a top of search modifier to everything in a campaign. So
honestly,
you really
guys,
want to be careful when applying that.
I hear both of those sides. I don't have like I don't know who's right. I want to refer to Destaney and get her input on this.
So very torn. I think there's 2 variables that really affect this, and this is your CPC at top of search. I personally literally just gave the advice that I typically recommend launching with the top of search modifier, but we do it in very, very granular approach. We typically take 4 to 5 keywords. We only go an exact match, and we'll do a very aggressive top of search modifier strictly so we can expedite data collection. We want to be at the top of search placement because it's getting the majority of impressions and clicks. Now, if I run this within 12 hours and I see my cost per click is $3 to $4, it is not sustainable for new brands at all. So I'm always saying, make sure you're tracking your CPCs and your conversion rate. If you're converting poorly, you don't need to run top of search modifier because driving more traffic to it's not going to make you convert better. But you can look at lower CPCs, which you may be more competitive on the product detail page or page 2 and page 3. So in general, I side with Daniel to expedite data collection. And then if it goes well, I 100% scale it. But that advice will 100% come back and backfire for every small brand that's listening to this and wants to try that approach, which is where Abe giving the cautionary advice of don't go aggressive, figure out what's working and then scale it is the better route for smaller brands.
Yeah, so let me ask you a quick question. What kind of budgets are you working with that 12-hour full speed firing?
It doesn't take that long to get CPCs on sponsored products. Sponsored brands, it's typically attributed later, but on sponsored products, I feel like you can get your CPCs pretty accurately.
The other thing that I like to do...
Not the CPCs, I'm talking about the initial budgets and spend that you'd use to get relevancy.
In sponsored products, I don't have a lot of issues because we do such granular targeting. 3 to 4 keywords, and you're running such a high modifier that you're bidding top of market regardless. So at the end of the day, if you have a relevant keyword, you can win any placement with the highest bid. I think that's a misconception of the space, in all honesty.
Daniel, you were saying something?
Yeah, this is kind of a hybrid approach. So one thing Abe mentioned and made a good point. If you don't want to apply that modifier to the whole campaign. And one thing that I've been doing is doing a super aggressive modifier. I'll use, I think, like 600% with a 10-cent bid to make like 60, 75 cents, but only top of search. Because what I'm finding is the CPCs are about the same can be about the same on PDP's rest of search as opposed to top of search. So just kind of, I don't know, bidding so low that you're probably not going to get any visibility. If you do, it's going to be 10-cent click. And then having that placement modifier act as like, not necessarily, I don't know. That's just another way to use it that I've you can do it a couple of different ways.
Yeah, there's another factor in which top of search only fires when they think you're likely to make the sale. So
that's the issue with running it at scale. So
right,
Abe has a great call out there. Some of our softwares.
Yeah, listen, when it comes to a new brand, Amazon does not know how likely you are to make the sale. So they're not likely to take your top of search modifier from you. If you're spending 10 cents with a 600% modifier, if Amazon doesn't know how likely you are to make that sale, they're not going to take the 60 cents from you.
You won't get it.
And they'll take 10 cents and you're at the bottom.
That's a good point.
That's where the traction and established brand aspect comes in.
Yes.
I think that the right answer is it depends. It depends where you are. and which category and the
Like
niche
most
and
things
etc.
there, like most things, I think. I think it further proves the point that there's no one size fits all. It's very much based on the unique situation of the account and the brand and the product and the budget that the client's willing to spend ultimately, right?
And how competitive.
And how competitive the category is, 100%. So
your goals, you might just be running ads just to try and gain reviews and get traction, get that sales velocity going. Some people are intentional loss leaders. Just they're not trying to get a positive return. They're just trying to move the needle.
But in just to, if I may take Abe's answer, it might be too quick for new sellers, which are not experts like in this podcast, to look at every 12 hours and decide. I would even say it takes them something like 3 days or 4 days just to decide to have the first decision. So just bear in mind that point.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, all right, guys.
This
was awesome. I don't even know. I'm just at a loss for words here. I don't know what I think ultimately. Like I'm still gonna just go with every
you know what,
own situation.
David, can I take control from you for 1 second?
Go ahead.
Abe was also between the experts last week, and he said something really smart. He said, there's no right and wrong, and as long as you're open to discussion, everything is accepted. So, and I think I was stealing and giving the credit immediately.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's definitely, we can talk about general strategies and we can try to add in like certain details, but every account is still going to be different. When you are, if you're Coca-Cola and you're adding a new flavor of Coke, you're going to have ultra high relevancy on day one. Whereas, if it's a completely different situation and it's a small brand working from their garage, we're going to have a different conversation about what the strategy looks like.
True. Very true.
So that's interesting. I wonder what. Go ahead.
Destaney, you saw the comments? Because we have a good mutual friend, Sharon Evan, that said you are among the best experts that she admire. So just for you to know.
Love
I thought she was talking about me.
Hey, I think she said best beard. But
she was speaking about you.
I think if there's one thing that should really be taken from this is like find the people you connect with, find the people like Abe is always in the groups giving advice. Sharon's always in the groups giving advice. Like that's what I think what is amazing about this panel right now. It's very abundance mindset. Daniel and I have had so many conversations on LinkedIn, just like strategizing, commenting on people's posts, and find the people that you really resonate with your strategy, that are more scalability, more profitability focused, more willing to help you here. Reach out to them, ask them questions, and just, there's so much free content in this industry. Like I met Abe at ASGTG and it was amazing just getting to talk to someone and bounce ideas off. And it's just really, really cool that you can have this network of experts without paying $1,000 an hour for consulting or without having to join their course, join their funnel. There's so many people out there willing to give information and help that I think that's been the most amazing part about this panel and the people on here.
And I think something we will all agree, don't be afraid to make mistakes because we are all learning from that.
Agreed.
Oh, hey, yes. David.
Yes.
Also wanted to mention 10 years in the service industry here too. So it was funny you mentioned that. It kind of gave me chills a little bit. I was like, you would have never thought that type of work would be so applicable, but it truly is. That's interesting.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate everyone's insight and everyone's time. It's definitely a crazy week for a lot of us. There's a lot going on. I think Destaney mentioned we're 18 days away from holiday season, and this is definitely needed. We need more of these. I think I saw Destaney. You might be doing another Ask Me Anything. I'll be in the audience of that one. It probably won't be limited to 5 questions. We needed to limit it today just to keep within the time frame.
I already asked her to join the next Zoom.
Okay, great.
Or the one after.
Okay, awesome.
Well, they're monthly now, so.
Yes, that happened today. Okay, so everyone, thank you so much. We always end off with some music as well. Get the vibe going. Thank you everybody again for joining, and we're looking forward to the next conversation. We're looking forward to talking to everybody, more. And thank you very much.
Thank you guys. Great conversation.
Yeah.
Destiny, take care, yo. Thank you everybody for showing up.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, guys.